Good evening and welcome to the FITT Show. I'm Bobby P. Kinzer,
And I'm Thomas Doty.
and we are the FITT Show and welcoming everybody from around America and the world. We'd like to thank you for tuning in once again on our 144th show. We are the FITT Show, financial information for today and tomorrow. How are you doing today, Thomas Doty?
I am happy to be alive.
Man, it's a good thing to be alive because nothing worse in the world is to wake up and you're dead. So, look, man, let's have a great session. Last week we talked about investing mistakes to avoid. We hope you picked up a lot of good tips on that. And we try to provide as much information as we can to our friends and foes around the country and to our listeners in England, Scotland, Ireland, and Wales. Thank y'all for tuning in. Just want to let you know we are not um, financial advisors. We are financial education instructors, and we not selling any products, so we never recommend specific products. But we'll tell you generic things that you can look into, like stocks and bonds, mutual funds, money market, things like that. But we don't have fiduciary responsibility, so we just want to make sure you understand that. And with that, we want you to make sure you click on the comment box because that's how we are able to interact with you. We're in a virtual studio, but we can interact with you if you put comments in the box. Should you have any comments or opinions, or you have anything you like to comment that we're talking about, or if you have a question, please feel free to add that in to the comment box. And plus, the more comments you put in there, the more traction we get with Facebook Live. And please make sure you share us on Facebook and on YouTube. Please subscribe and have your friends to subscribe also. Dote, it's been an interesting week for the stock market. And as we always do, let's start at the top of the show with everybody's favorite subject, the stock market. And I don't think you're going to have really good news today.
No. There was a big sell-off actually today. It was the fourth consecutive losing session for the Dow. And the Dow dropped just today around 500 points. And you can see with four straight losses, you can see how much the Dow lost in the past week, 1,200 points or 3%. NASDAQ dropped 2%, not as bad as the Dow. And some of the stocks I deal with also took a tumble. Microsoft dropped 3, Tesla dropped 5, Apple a couple, Pfizer 1, Nvidia dropped 45 or 5%, and my Google stock is kind of staying true to where it's at. It's doing okay, but this all happened. The Dow was actually running positive today, this afternoon, until the crude oil price jumped. And then there was some talk that one of the Federal Reserve guys was really questioning whether interest rates should come down, given this inflation is still kind of hanging on. So that kind of caused the bottom to fall out, and things went kind of crazy from there. But like I said, there have been 3 losing days. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday had all been down. So this was the 4th losing day in a row. Now, tomorrow is the big jobs report, and that's when, and just so you know, today's loss was the worst Dow day in almost a year. So it was a pretty bad day and a pretty bad week. But tomorrow is the jobs report, and they're hoping that it shows that kind of things are slowing down. And if it doesn't, then it'll probably be another big sell-off or another big drop. So they'll look at wages, they'll look at how many jobs have been added, and they're hoping to see that the unemployment rate, kind of ticks down a little bit. But things have been going pretty strong. So as long as the Fed doesn't have a clear indication that rates could come down, things are going to be a little shaky. But once rates start coming down, things will probably pick back up. So rough week. And all I can say is, like we usually tell you, hang close. Don't let these little volatile periods affect your thinking. And it's short term in nature. The Fed's eventually going to cut interest rates once they feel they have inflation under control. But right now, the economy is so strong that that's turned out to be a little more difficult than anticipated. So, a rough week on the street.
Yeah, but though gold is up, man. Except for
Gold is rolling.
gold and silver.
Yeah, well, a lot of commodities are going up. Period. Just people are looking for some stability, and those things are usually where people run when things are kind of crazy.
And my General Electric stock has been really going up, though. It's been
Well, now, how did they handle that? Because they just split into 3 different companies.
right.
What did you get? Did you get 3 different groups of stock? How did that work?
They were supposed to give. I was waiting for it to come in the mail. It was supposed to give you a choice to go medical, or I think it's called
One's aerospace.
Aerospace, what they call carbon engines,
Yeah.
carbon engines, and I thought it was just 2. You said it's 3, but
There's 3. There's one they split off before. I can't remember which one it is.
Right. So, but they were supposed to give you a choice. I was waiting to see it come through the mail for because they're letting you elect which way you want to go. But GE in general, the stock is at it's up, and it's been going up the past several weeks. So that's a good thing, man.
Oh,
But
yeah.
another thing, though, not any good news, is the cryptocurrency market is taking a beating this week. The actual cryptocurrency um, market cap for all cryptocurrency, which is about 11,000 active, but there's about 25,000 cryptocurrencies, but they're not all active. But the active ones is several, about 11,000 now. But the whole market is down by 128 billion, 5%. Now, Bitcoin was 70,857 last week. Is now down to 68,388 per Bitcoin. So that's a drop of $2,469. That's a 3% drop. And it dropped last week too. Right. But it went back up. But as we know, it's speculative, and I wouldn't expect for it to do anything different. And once again, we are strategists about the long term anyway, and hold it. But it is what it is. We said it's highly speculative, and as you can see, as we've been following it, I'm sure people can see that it has been. But it also, I can see that some people have been making money who have been staying the course. Just quick question though about the stock market. When it seemed like a lot of people were selling off and taking the shares. What kinds of drives that though?
Well, a lot. We talked about the fantastic first quarter that we saw. I think the S&P was up 10%. The Dow was up huge. Yeah, everything was up huge in the first quarter. So a lot of people just tend to take profits. The people who are day trading or short-term sellers, they take their profits, they take their money, and they're happy with their gain, and they kind of lay in the cut and wait for things to go down. So I think that could be some of it. A lot of people were happy with the first quarter. First quarter was pretty hot. And if I needed money, if I needed cash, you look at. I mean, I was up 750 points or 700 points on $70,000 on just Nvidia. But again, I didn't have anywhere to park the money, so I didn't sell. I'm not interested in dealing with the capital gains right now, and so I kind of let it ride. But you got some people who say, "Okay, I'm tired of Nvidia. I'm gonna sell, take my profits, and go on to something else." I think that's the thinking behind that.
Well, like everything that we like to tell people, it's a strategy of getting in, and you should have an exit strategy too. I don't care what you're dealing with, whether it's the stock market, cryptocurrency, or any other investment, real estate. You should always have a strategy. And most people have a strategy to get in, but most people have a strategy to get out, though. And it's no one right strategy, either or, but it's good that you have a strategy. And my strategy, though, has always been I don't take it the gains unless I need it for something. Because once you take it out, then what you going to do? Just park it in the savings account? Why would you do that? I mean, but some people would like to preserve their gains, but I'm like, nah, my strategy, and over the long term, like we always say, it usually have greater gains. So that's my strategy. Unless I need it for something, then I will take it out. And my other,
yes,
go ahead.
unless I see a better opportunity, or if I see a stock that I think more highly of than where I have my money currently invested, I'm going to let it ride. And again, that's not saying it's right. That's just what I choose to do because of my situation. I don't need the money. It's not something I need to have to live on, or it's not part of my monthly, spending or income plan. And so until I find something I think is better than NVIDIA and Microsoft and Apple and all the other stocks I have, so I think the only stocks I'm actually losing on are NVIDIA, Pfizer and Tesla. Tesla's actually down.
Yeah, Tesla.
Maybe $1,000 on Tesla, and down about 10,000 on Pfizer. But on the other stocks, I'm up like 200,000 bucks. So yeah, I'm not interested in taking a 40 grand tax hit by selling everything. And then where would I put the money? So I'm happy with where the money is. So I'm content. A lot of other people wouldn't be. They take their gain and be happy.
So you didn't think about investing in Donald Trump's new stock called Truth Social?
Let's get on with the show.
I know that people been asking me about that. Like, hey, what's the value of that? I said, you'll see. Let's talk about. I mean, this is perfect time though to segue into our topic for the day. Is like, don't go broke in retirement. A lot of people are saying, "Oh, Bob, where y'all going with that?" And it's a sensitive subject sometimes, but just what we are talking about, investments and things like that. These are things you really need to consider. Because one of the things about going into retirement, one of the things you need to be conscious about is, you want to make sure you can fund your retirement until the day you end up on this earth. So what do you have to say about that, Doe?
Yeah, and it's kind of tricky because that's a fear, a legitimate fear for just about everybody. Everybody who's retiring is worried about running out their money. And there are some things you can take to avoid that fate. Obviously, the first thing is to make sure you have enough saved. And if you don't, just remember it's never too late to start. Now, the thing is, people are living longer. All the baby boomers are starting to turn 65. I think it's 10,000 baby boomers turn 65 every day. And either they're counting down to when they're quitting, or if they're not already retired. At the same time, people counting their money, counting their pension, looking at Social Security. And Harris Poll did a survey, and they found that only 24% of people surveyed were very confident that they will be able to retire and live comfortably. 42% said their biggest concern was outliving their retirement savings and investments. And so then you throw in the fact that Social Security is a big question mark because it's on pace to run out of money, I think by like 2033. And so 73% of the people are concerned that Social Security won't be for them when they retire. So it's time to face your fears, to look at it and really grab it by the neck and say, I'm going to make sure I'm prepared. So before you start your retirement journey, make sure you follow these things we're going to talk about why people can go broke in retirement and why some people run out of money. But learn what you can do now and take actions so you don't be one of those people that run out of money in retirement.
And there's three things that you need to consider, too, about, retirement is how long would I live? How much will I spend? And have I saved enough? And running out of money in retirement is a concern for many Americans. Though half the households are at risk of not having money enough, not having enough income to maintain their standard of living in retirement. That's according to the Center for Retirement Research at Boston College. But most people can no longer rely on the pensions many workers in their prior decades used to enjoy. At the same time, stagnant wages and job insecurity have grown more common. People are living long and have better health care than in the past. But this means retirees need to pay more for health care for longer. Now, just because people live longer doesn't mean they can work longer. Running out of money in retirement is a big concern for obvious reasons. However, there's a lot of variation. For example, someone who runs out of money at 95 but has 90% of their expenses covered by guaranteed income sources like Social Security or pension or annuity is a lot better off than someone who runs out of money at 70 with only 50% of their living expenses covered by guaranteed income. Now, these and other factors, including the meager Social Security benefits we get and the adequate savings that we do, paint a worrisome picture for millions of Americans who are set to retire in the coming years. So we want to just talk about some of the things that help you keep from going broke in retirement.
Yeah, but first, Bob, let's talk about some of the things you can control and some of the things you cannot control.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Let me
Yeah,
I have a slide for that though. Let me pull it up.
and the first thing we're going to talk about is things that are that are not under your control that may affect whether or not you run out of money. And the first one is outliving your money. I mean, my mother's 104, so
Wow.
and she's going strong. So that's a possibility that you can think that you may not live as long as you may live. I mean, there are medical advancements all the time that are causing people to live longer. People I think, are a lot more health conscious now, and so that's a risk that you obviously you control to some extent by how you take care of yourself, but really that's not in your hands how long you're going to live.
And the next one is the high and rapidly rising costs of healthcare, especially long-term care. Like I said, we living longer, and that means you got to pay more for healthcare. And if you have some healthcare illnesses, that's going to cost you. Those are the kind of things you need to start planning for now. Especially long-term care. That's always a tricky one, though, because it's like double dutch. You don't know when to jump in because the earlier you jump in, the cheaper is going to not the cheaper, the less it's going to cost you, and the longer you wait, the more it's going to cost you. So that's another financial risk.
And another one is family risk, and you don't know if you'll have to take care of a parent or have to take care of one of your adult kids, or God forbid something happens to one of your kids, they become disabled, you have to take care of them, and you might have to, or provide an assistance for a kid who's going through some tough times. So those are things that just happen. You can't really predict. It's hard to get a handle on how much that's going to cost you.
And another financial risk is the shift by employees away from the defined benefit plans where, you didn't have to put nothing in, but they switched to retirement accounts like 401ks and 457, 403b funds, plans. So they shifted that on to employers, and that people got to figure out their mix and which stocks should they be in the G fund, F fund, and the thrift savings plan. It's a bigger risk now.
Yeah, next you got regular old market risk. That's the stock market not doing as well as you think it may do, or a big upheaval comes and the stock market takes a crash. When you need your money, or you're depending on the value of your house, and the value of your house declines tremendously. Those are things that, again, you can't really control, but they do happen at times.
And the last one, though, is one that we hear all the time. They be spooking people, scaring people, is the inadequate Social Security benefits and the program's potential future insolvency. I mean, they keep talking about, they throw out these years, and 2032 is going to be insolvent, 2030, 2040, and it's scaring people, and especially with them on Capitol Hill talking about affecting Social Security, and they already extended it, and they think about extending the full-time retirement age out further. those are risks that people need to really think about and consider.
Yeah. So now let's talk about some of the risks that you control, things that you can get straight before you retire or while you retire to make sure you don't run out of money. And the first one on this list is you get out of the stock market. You take all your money out of the stock market. You're overly conservative. You're worried about market volatility. And so you say, I'm not going to be in the market at all. And everybody has their limit or their amount of risk that they're willing to take. But you kind of got to be in the market if you want to keep pace with inflation. And again, how much you're in the market depends on your own appetite for risk. But we always say if you look over time, the market is averaged between 9 and 10%. And if you're in the got your money in a savings account or worse yet in the mattress under the pillow, you will not keep track with inflation and you lose buying power. And theoretically you can run out of money. And so there's no, I can't tell you what your stock allocation should be. Nobody can decide that for you. A professional can help you decide how much risk you're willing to take based on your own situation. But it can be anywhere from 30% to 80%. I think if you're 100% in stocks, that's probably a little bit too much. And if you're 0% in stock, that's not near enough. You've got to decide how much you're willing to live with, how much risk allows you to sleep at night, but at the same time, allow you to take advantage of the market when things are going well. So that's one that you control. You take all your money out of the stock market, you're going to lose purchasing power.
No, got a question from Mindset Academy HS. I wonder who that is. And they say, if you're leaving your current company, how would you move your 401k plan?
Well, it depends on what that company is and how your investment is in that company. A lot of times, like when I worked at PPG, we had a lot of the money in a PPG stock fund, but you also had other options, which were Fidelity funds. They had target date funds. And if you're happy with the way your funds are allocated at that company, you can leave them there. And there are some advantages to money being in a 401k versus being in an IRA. And that's another thing you need to talk to a tax professional about, because it may come to a point where one may be more advantageous than the other. But if you have your money invested in something that you're comfortable with, and you look at the fees, the administrative fees that the company is charging you, and you're satisfied with those, then you can leave them in the company. Or you can do a withdrawal or transfer. You just got to be careful with that and make sure you don't have them give you a check, in which case you will be subject to a withholding and subject to tax unless you transfer that money to a IRA within, I think it's 60 days. But at the same time, if you take it in a check, they will withhold 20%, and then you'll have to play games to get that back if you intended on rolling all that into an IRA. So again, That's another one you need to talk to a professional about. But if you're satisfied with how your money is invested in your company, you can leave it. If you're not, you can transfer it to an IRA of your own choice.
Yeah, and rollover is the key term, because so you wouldn't be hit with any tax implications. But the thing is, what I found out, a lot of companies, if your company, like you said, you've been doing well with where you at, I always ask, because that's what the question was always to me, they want to roll you over. And I'm like, why? And usually, not all the time, but they roll you over because two things. They usually have way more choices, alternatives, more stocks for you to pick from. And I'm like, if you're good where you are, why do you need that many more different stocks? And then some of them, they have different stocks that are performing better than the ones you have. So you need to, really get an advisor to help you when you think about rolling over. And I hope that answers, excuse me.
And look at the fees. Don't forget the fees.
And that is the fees come under the title expense ratios. Expense ratio is the fee they charge you, that the fund manager charges, and it should be less than 1.0. So let's say it's 0.45. That's $4.50 for every $1,000 they manage it for you. So you want it to be under 1.0. And then they have these other fees, 12B1, which nothing you can do about that, but that's marketing fees. But if that is high, those are two things that you should really be concerned to look at, because that's money that could be going compounding for your fund. So that's why it's important not to look at those fees and everything. Though you talked about taking all your money out of stocks, but I want to talk about you you invested too much in stocks. Okay, we know stocks are risky. You don't have to have too much in stocks, though, especially if you're so reliant on that portfolio because of the volatility of the market. One route has near retirement investors moving towards 60% stocks as you get closer to retirement, or right in the beginning of retirement as you approach retirement. And then they recommend you trim it down from 60% to 40, 50% stock. Now, this is no direct science, or it's just a benchmark that people use. And some people say, you go down as low as 20, 30% of stocks. But the key is diversification is still critical, no matter what stage you are. If you, getting ready to go retirement, you're heading into retirement, or you're in retirement, me and Dote always talk about that. And that means having a mix of, different large cap, small cap, international stocks, a well mix of industries and companies, within those categories, because diversification doesn't ensure a profit or eliminate the risk of investment losses. Too much of any one stock, but too much of any one stock carries a major risk on its own. So think mutual funds, ETFs, exchange traded funds for easy ways to get this diversification. Diversification always means investing. It also means investing beyond stocks. For instance, sources of retirement income in like U.S. Treasuries. Me and don't always talk about that because we believe in those. Municipal bonds, even corporate bonds. That municipal bonds are backed by the local principalities. So those are always good. And then you got corporate bonds, and you have REITs, real estate investment trusts, just to name a few. And as I always talk about, owning gold is another way, and silver, to diversify your portfolio, as well as owning real estate. So you can never diversify enough, but you don't want to be too much in one thing.
Yeah, and the next one we touched on earlier is underestimating your life expectancy. And again, that's one that it's hard to get exactly right. Nobody knows when their time's up, and everybody wants to live a long, happy life. And sometimes that happy part is dependent on how much money you have. And so people are living longer, people are taking better care of themselves, and so you got to have a plan. You got to at least expect to live a long life. Okay? And you should save accordingly, expecting to live to maybe 90. Most people polled expect to live to 90. You get very few people who say, yeah, I think I'm going to die at 70. But so you got to save enough, assuming you're going to live a long life. There's no downside to that. There might be a few things you can't buy that you want, but you got to assume you're going to live a long life unless you know otherwise, based on your genetics, your family history, or how well you take care of yourself, or what your underlying conditions are. But that's one that people mess up sometimes, is underestimating your life expectancy.
Yeah, that's a big one, though. The next one is you spend too much, and we all do. And before we probably during retirement, Studies from the Employee Benefit Research Institute found that 46% of retired households spent more annually in the first 2 years of retirement than they did just before retiring. Now, ideally, you already started preparing a budget, prior to entering retirement, but it's critical to help you understand how to live within your means. Step one is, you need to add up your monthly expenses for taxes and extras such as long-term care. Number two, you need to separate these expenses into two categories: discretionary, which is the extras, and non-discretionary, the must-haves. Number three, tally up all sources of income other than your portfolio, such as Social Security, pensions, salary, or real estate, and subtract your expenses from your income to see what your budget should look like. And because a lot of people, when it comes to spending, it's like three phases that impact your expenses. It's called the active retirement, and that's when you actually tend to have its own lifestyle, and you just retired. It's called active, and you go on a trip on a safari hunt. You buy an RV, and then the next phase is the relaxing retirement, where you sort of started out, did all the things that you wanted to do, and you sort of start backing off. Your mortgage paid for, things like that. And then the last one is usually a resting retirement, where you now taking the grandkids. You're not taking major trips. You're going to take your grandkids to the zoo, or you're dealing with downsizing or your medical bills. So your expenses seem to actually go up. So if you can plan for all those kind of things, it's very important. Like if you got an old car, you need to plan in the next 5 years. Put that into your budget. For a new car, if your car is like 10 years old, you know that you're going to eventually have to get a new car. Start planning now. Put that into your budget. So that you won't some of these things are going to be coming. And even like if you going to be needing a new roof in about 5 years, put that into your budget now so it doesn't sneak up on you and end up spending on other things, and what they call opportunity costs. Don't have the money for those things that you actually need.
Yeah, and the next one is a little bit tricky. It's when you rely on a single source of income. And that single source, it could be Social Security, or it could be a pension. And if you do, again, there's a chance that something could happen to that single source of income. For example, if Social Security decides to reduce benefits in order to meet their financial obligations because they're running out of money, then that's going to affect you. Or if you have a pension, pensions go out, end up going bankrupt, and I know there's a pension guarantee. The government guarantees some pension, but it's not 100%. And so that's always in the back of my mind. I get two separate pensions from PPG, and one is under the guidelines of the federal guarantee program, but the other one is not. And so, I always keep in the back of my mind that one or both could disappear, because in my case, PPG actually sold our pensions to an insurance company. And so if something crazy happens with the insurance company, it goes my pension. And that does happen. I think the truckers end up losing a bunch of their pension money. And even if it's replaced by the government, it's not dollar for dollar. So try to have multiple sources of income. If you have a pension, very few people have pensions now. I think it's less than 15%. But a lot of people are counting on Social Security as their primary source. And there's no guarantee that Social Security is going to be there to the same extent that it is now. So it's best that you control what you can control and save as much as you can. And if those other sources of income are there, then you're just in a much better position than if you're depending on those and something happens to them.
Rodney L. Madison Sr., the noteexperience.com. He said, don't forget about holding paper mortgage notes. And we're going to have him on. I talked to him one day to talk about mortgage notes because basically you hold the mortgage. Like, say you have a $115,000 person paying on a house, you actually hold a mortgage. You like the banker, and it'll pay you 8% over the life of that loan. So, say the loan is a 20-year, 30-year loan, that's another way, another investment. He just wanted to make sure let everybody know that there's other ways also, other investments. So if you want to learn more about how to hold mortgage notes, and the good thing about mortgage notes, you don't have to worry about, collecting rent. You don't have to worry about uh, fixing the roof, fixing the toilet. No, you're like the bank. You hold a mortgage. Pretty interesting. But go out on the noteexperience.com and check them out. Hey, Dote, I want to talk about another. This is a very sensitive one that can make people go broke in retirement. Is that you aren't able to work, and more than half, 57% of baby boomers surveyed by Transamerica are planning to work beyond when they could begin collecting Social Security benefits, and that's at 62 until when they have to take Social Security age 70. And 80% of workers surveyed, they'll be working in retirement because of financial reasons. Most say they are staying healthy or sharpening their job skills to keep working in their retirement years. But what if you can't keep working? No one plans for that. You know, Health issues can strike at any time. As my brother Steve always say, you get old, stuff just jump on you. And changes to your employment status resulting from a downsizing could happen. Business failures like layoffs are always a risk. Anyone who has attempted to get a new job after 50 knows ageism can be a very real obstacle. Now, the survey shows many workers do not have a backup plan for retirement income if they are unable to work before their planned retirement. So, what to do? Save aggressively, keep emergency fund. We always talk about that, and building one, and review your insurance, in particular disability insurance, to ensure your coverage is adequate.
And on that same line of thinking, if you get sick in retirement, which you probably are, and it's kind of funny, Medicare, which is basic health insurance for most people, the three things that go on old people, they don't cover. You got the eyes, your teeth, and your hearing. So
That always amazed me.
those are the three things guaranteed to go as you age. And looking at some numbers, uh, this employee benefit research, it says a 65-year-old man would need to save 142,000 to have a 90% chance of affording his health care expenses in retirement. Now that's not including long-term care. And it's even worse for a woman. A woman would need 159,000. So you should make sure you're doing all you can to keep your health care costs under control in retirement by looking at supplemental Medigap plans, look at Medicare Advantage plans, and reviewing your options annually during open enrollment. And if the other thing you can do, obviously, is just take better care of yourself. Cut your drinking, cut your smoking, get out and get some fresh air and exercise. And if you need long-term care, then you're gonna go broke quick because it is crazy expensive. And if you try to get it, through Medicare where it's paid for, you have to be basically broke and own nothing and have no assets. So you don't want that to happen to you. So make sure you've got money saved for health care because you're going to need it. Nobody gets old and doesn't get sick. As Bob mentioned earlier, when we were young and athletic, we used to get hurt. When you get old, you just hurt. There ain't no reason. You wake up, your knees hurting, and you think back, did I fall? Did I bump it? And it's just age. So that's going to happen when you get old. So prepare for it.
Like Steve said, don't just jump on you. The name of the game, though, is prevention is better than cure. And when something jump on you, especially men, man, we self-medicate. You need to just take care of it. Got another question, though, from Mindset Academy. So how much emergency fund should you have? That's a good question. You want to tackle that first, though?
Yeah, I did first shot. Well, it depends on what things you know might be popping up. For example, if you got two fairly new cars that are under warranty and you live in a house that's fairly new and you know you're pretty healthy, chances are you won't get sick. And if you do, your company pays you while you're sick, then you probably need less than somebody who has an older car and that typically could run into some expenses, or you have an older house and those kind of things pop up on your house. So it all depends on your own individual situation. And if you have money saved and something comes up, you got to have enough to cover it without tapping into your long-term savings. And so it all depends. There's a lot of rule of thumbs, like
Right.
three times your salary, three times your monthly salary put away. But again, that's a crapshoot. You got to sit down, look at your situation. What could go wrong? Plan for it as best you can. Put money away for it. For example, your furnace going. If your furnace is, over 10 years old, or your air conditioner, or if your car gets long in the tooth, there's things that go on your car: your brakes, your transmission, your exhaust system, those kind of things. Those are the kind of things you have to have money for. So it depends on what are the possible things that could go wrong in your life that would cause you to tap your emergency fund. That's how you determine how much you need.
Yeah, and like Doe said, there's been rule of thumb. Some say 3 to 6 months your salary. Some say 6 to 12. Some say, yeah, those normally the ones. I always say this, though. You, you need to, like what you said, though. You need to look at some of the things that you have in your house and things that might go wrong, or if you have a younger kid or grandkid, and if it's a grandkid and you want to help out, then it's not too early to think about, okay, if I'm going to help out and my grandkid is, 4 years old, then that's a no-brainer. They got 529 plans, or put some money aside, to save that can build up to that amount. But it helps if you do some pre-work and these things are coming. So
and Bob, I got to be honest. I never really had a designated emergency fund, but from the day I first got my paycheck, I always maxed out my savings plan. When I got married, she maxed out her savings plan. She had a thing where you could buy stock. We maxed that out. And so I was saving as much money as I could possibly save. When IRAs came, I always put the max into that. And so, and I did have some saved on the side, and if something came up, I always had money to pay it. And that's the key thing is if you can just save as much, you can force yourself to save as much as you can and live on what's left. You have emergencies, you'll be able to handle them. But if you're not in that situation, then you got to figure out what could go wrong, make sure you got money put away from it, and make sure that's money that you can put aside and not worry about touching it. And maybe every year you add to it a little bit. You get a designated account and say, this is my emergency fund money. I'm going to put it in a high yield savings account. And as I get a raise every year, I'll add to what I save in my company savings plan, and I'll put a little bit more in my emergency fund. And that's kind of how you do it.
And I was going to end it by saying, just what you said, I believe you need to save as much as you can.
Yeah.
And there's an old saying, right? Most people spend and then save what's less. But the theory is to save and spend what's left. And that way, if you save as much as you can, I was the same way, though. I just maxed out. And that's why I was putting in the 401k and other things I could contribute to. And that's what made a difference. So the next thing, though, is, people tap into the wrong accounts. Now, let's just hope that your younger self was smart enough to to build, your retirement fund or multiple streams of income to tap into retirement. Now, now the older retired you still needs to know which accounts to tap when you minimize taxes and avoid penalties. As a general rule, right, going to taxable accounts first allow your savings in tax deferred accounts such as IRAs and 401ks to compound for as long as possible before being withdrawn and taxed. The most tax efficient distribution method will depend on the exact composition of your portfolio, your income needs, and your personal situation. Now, tax advisors can help you customize when and how much to take out from which accounts to extend the life of your portfolio. It's always good to consult a tax advisor. But just remember, though, that traditional IRAs and 401ks funded with pre-tax dollars are subject to required minimum distribution starting, and they move the age up at 70 and a half or 72, depending on your birth. Now, miss a RMD and you'll face a stiff penalty. Now, additionally, to keep in mind, you got Roth IRAs, and there are no RMDs subject to Roths, and there are no deferred taxes to contend with such Roth, since Roth contributions are made on after-tax basis. Now, the flexibilities of Roths come into handy in retirement as you try to manage these income levels from year to year. And the main one that when you retire, the biggest thing you're trying to do is keep taxes at a minimum.
Yeah, I think it's 73 when they start now, Bob.
Yeah, they moved it up again, didn't they?
73, yeah. And another one is one that a lot of people don't consider, but you got to look at state taxes. And so, you look at all the federal tax situations and you plan to pay your federal tax, but you got to look at state taxes because some states have very high taxes and don't give you a break for retirement. And if you live in a high tax state, it can be considerable, the amount of tax that you might have to pay on your withdrawals from your IRAs and 401ks. Some states don't tax those. You got to be aware of that. There are 12 states that tax Social Security, so you even have to look at that. And a lot of people move south and try to go to low tax friendly states such as Florida, which has no state taxes on income. Georgia's pretty low. South Carolina's pretty low. But it's funny. That's one of the things I did, not intentionally, but I lived in Pennsylvania for most of my working career, and they didn't give you a break for 401k, so I had to pay tax when I put it in. But in South Carolina, you also pay tax when you take it out. So I'm going to get kind of hit there, but overall the tax situation in South Carolina is such that it's still positive because of the low property taxes and some of the low other taxes. So you got to take into consideration where you're moving, where you're planning to retire. Do your research and make sure you understand what the tax situation is going to be in the state that you plan on living. Now, some people don't worry about it, but if you live in New York or New Jersey or Connecticut or California, they have very, very high state taxes, very, very high property taxes, and those things you have to take into account because they'll beat you up when you retire.
Hey, Dope. Now, this one could be a little sensitive. Like, I know you like to give your children and grandchildren the leg up by contributing to a down payment on their first home or helping with their tuition bills, but you can't be the bank of mom and dad forever, particularly if it puts your own financial security at risk. One of the most common financial mistakes parents make is funding their children's education before taking care of their own retirement needs. The point is that you won't be of much use to your child or anyone else in the future if you can't take care of yourself. So as long as you're saving enough for your own retirement, then by all means, help your kids with college, But if you're paying for college at the expense of your own retirement savings, remember that there are many ways to cover the cost of college, including financial aid, grants, student loans and scholarship, but there aren't any scholarships for retirement. And for that new house, talk to your kids about their funding options. If they don't have enough for a traditional 20% down payment on the home of their dreams, they might need to rent a cheaper place or move, heaven forbid, into your basement until they can save enough.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
Okay.
But I mean, they might need some help, though. Why not? Or you might need to scale back on target a less expensive starter home, or they might need to think unconventionally and find a roommate to share housing costs. But these are just some of our ideas. But your kids, you need to take care of yourself first before you can help anybody.
Yeah, the next one is don't be underinsured. Make sure you have adequate health coverage. Don't try to skimp, because as I said, you are going to get sick, and if you only have Medicare, you're going to hit hard. You're going to get hit hard because a lot of things they pay for, there's a copay involved, or there's some out-of-pocket costs, and a lot of things they pay 80 or 90%. And if you talk about a $100,000 operation and they pay 80%, that's 20 grand you have to come up with. So make sure you get a supplemental policy or a Medigap policy to cover those things that Medicare doesn't cover. And believe me, it's a lot of things they don't cover. So Medicare is designed to cover all your healthcare costs. It covers a big hunk of them. So you might want to get a supplemental to cover the rest. And don't skimp on your car insurance or your house insurance, because you don't get older and your eyes get better, and you don't get older and your reflexes get better. So chances of you having a wreck probably increase as you age, even though you might be a little more conservative and more safe in other ways. So it might offset, but I would tend to believe older people have more accidents than younger people. I got no proof on that. That's just kind of a gut feeling. But make sure you have enough insurance to cover yourself, your health care, your home, your insurance, and any other valuables that you have.
Now, retirees are particularly vulnerable to scams. The FBI notes that older adults are prime targets for criminals because of their presumed wealth, relatively trusting nature, and typical unwillingness to report these crimes. People who grew up in the 1930s, 40s, and 50s were generally raised to be polite and trusting. That's what they say, according to FBI reports. Con artists exploit these traits, knowing that it's difficult or impossible for these individuals to say no, though, or just hang up the telephone. Even worse, the perpetrators may be closer than you think. According to a study from MetLife and the National Committee for Prevention of Elderly Abuse, an estimated 1 million seniors lose $2.6 billion a year due to financial abuse, and family members and caregivers are the perpetrators 55% of the time. Common retirement scams to watch out for often involve imposters pretending to be Social Security, Medicare, or IRS officials. The absolute best way to deal with fraudsters who call you out of the blue demanding personal information or immediate payment is to hang up. Medicare is not going to call you. Social Security is not going to call you. The IRS will reach out to you many times by mail if you have back taxes as an issue before they would ever call you on the phone.
Yeah, that's one that's near and dear to me, Bob, and because they're getting so much smarter, and I think every month, I gotta believe it's every month I get a notice that there's been a data breach. I just got one this week from AT&T, and they got your information, and so you get bombarded with opportunities for people to scam you. So if you don't know who's calling you, don't answer it. Watch your pop-ups on your computer screen. Watch your mail, and get your alerts on your accounts to make sure you stay on top of what's happening. The next one is you borrow from your retirement savings. And this is one, and I'll be honest, I thought in my head borrowing from your 401k was positive, and it really isn't. It's no different than any other loan. That's basically how it is. It's a loan because you're taking money out you're paying interest. The fact that you're putting the money back in your account is meaningless. Don't look at it. People are, oh, I'm borrowing from myself. No, you're not. You're borrowing, period. Trust me on this. There's no advantage to taking a loan from your savings account. It's no different than going to a bank and getting a loan. If you sit down and look at it and do the math, you'll find if you go to the bank and borrow at 4%, or you take a 4% loan out of your savings plan, it's exactly the same. So you're borrowing money, no matter where you get it from, you're borrowing money and you're paying an interest rate, no matter where you borrow from. So get in the habit of once you put money away, it's saved unless there's a life event that you have to go in there and get it. But don't borrow from your retirement money. Put retirement savings. Put that money away and let it stay there. And that's how you should do it.
Yeah, that's good advice, though. We've talked about this, but this is another one why people go broke. Just want to touch on it again, like having no emergency fund. Now, fortunately, quite a few baby boomers are members of the No Emergency Savings Club, or they have very little saved. According to Transamerica survey, the median savings in workers' emergency savings was only $5,000. 31% of boomers said they had less than $5,000 in emergency savings. A bank rate survey found 25% of baby boomers had no cash whatsoever put away for emergencies. So, like me and Dope said, review your budget and reduce spending temporarily so you can slowly build up your emergency fund. Like you said, there's no set mark, but a lot of benchmarks. At least start with 6 months worth of living expenses is generally recommended, but 3+ months should be adequate for many retirees. But the point is, save as much as you can. It's important. It's important.
That's the key thing. Save as much as you can.
Right. So, Dope, as always, we had 20 pounds of knowledge in a 10-pound bag. So let's go to the summary and takeaways for today, because that was a lot.
Yes, it was.
So let's start it off, Dope, with
first one is you assess your risk. You got to understand how much risk you're comfortable with. You don't want to have too much invested in stocks. You don't want to have too little invested in stocks. You want to have enough where your money doesn't lose purchase power, and you're not over, what's the word I'm looking for? Over invested, where if something catastrophic happens, you lose the bulk of your savings. Save as much or have as much invested or as much at risk as you can live with, but 0 is not enough. 100 is too much. Find your sweet spot.
manage your spending. I mean, this is the key to all. I mean, it's the things called opportunity cost. You can spend on something right now, but you risk the reward of future benefits. You want present rewards, but you sacrifice future benefits. So manage your spending because it can really affect you. And that's why we said you definitely must, have a budget, and that will definitely help you spending, because that's why it's called a spending plan.
You have enough income and realize that something you consider guaranteed may not be guaranteed, a pension, Social Security, stock market. So the more sources of income you can have, the better you'll be. So make sure you got multiple sources of income to prepare for anything that may happen.
And withdraw retirement funds strategically. Doe said, if you're taking it out, that's, even though you may be paying it back, but that's money that could be earning. So you're losing that earning power. And if you, are taking distributions because you're retired and need that money, once again, plan for that distribution so that you make sure that you'll have money in your retirement plan, to last you, because, life expectancy, like we said, is a lot longer, and you might need more money to make it to the 20, 30-year mark.
one more to that point. The one thing I can tell you younger people, I mean, I'll be 70 in a couple of weeks, and I can tell you, as you get older, your appetite for things decreases. So that's one thing you can have to look forward to. You probably won't want as many things as you get older. So that's one way you probably won't spend as much. And finally, be tax efficient. This is something where you may need help, but you have to consider taxes in all you do, whether it's RMDs, whether it's the way your money is allocated, to the way you withdraw money from specific accounts, whether it's a 401k, whether it's your own personal stock brokerage account that has capital gains. You want to optimize your tax situation and make sure you're paying a minimum amount of tax. And oh, by the way, be aware of what state you're living in and what taxes you may have to pay in retirement.
Good information, Dope. Just have another question before we end tonight. And it's from Rodney. He said, when should one get disability insurance?
When you're young. And it's funny, probably between the ages of 25 and 50. And I'd seen some data a while back, and it says you're more likely to become disabled rather than die. So a lot of people get life insurance, which is good. And my son-in-law is a strong proponent of getting life insurance just to build wealth, buying it while you're young on yourself, and then having it to pass that to your kids when you die. But disability insurance, when you're younger, is when you're more likely to become disabled. So that's just my recommendation. But again, that's another situation where you talk to an insurance broker, someone who, Bob always says, has some fiduciary responsibility, who can give you an idea and look at all kinds of statistics to help you determine how much you should have, how long you should have it, and that sort of thing.
And disability insurance, like long-term insurance period, the earlier you get in it, the cheaper it is. That's why I don't say when you're younger, it's definitely cheaper for you to get in. But that you need to balance that out. And thank God some companies have disability insurance within the company, but most of the disability is short-term disability within your company. Most people don't have long-term. That's something that is a personal choice, though. Should you decide to have it. So, thank everybody for tuning in. We're gonna do roll call. Like the first one up was Modestine, South Carolina's resident now. Hello, Nolia, Linda, and Gloria, my wonderful sisters. They are true there every week for us, and I love you all. What's up, Carl Chapman, my brother, Rodney L. Madison Sr., thenoteexperience.com. You want to know more about mortgage notes as an investment, go out there on the noteexperience.com. Garnett, what's up, Garnett? And now I know who Mindset Academy HS is. That's my wonderful, greatest producer ever. The show on Bounce and BET, Tracy Kinzer, down there in Hotlanta, joining us today. Thank you so much.
Hey,
and, yes, though.
Before I forget, and I don't usually recommend videos and stuff, but if you get a chance, take a look at a 2010 interview between Warren Buffett and Jay-Z. And there are just several life nuggets in that conversation that it's worth listening to, about investing, about just how you live your life. Those are two very successful people who did it, obviously, two very different ways. But there's a lot of good nuggets to be obtained by listening to that interview. It's well worth your time.
And just want to tell, before I forget, Joanne Skinner, Garnett, I might have already said that. And, oh, hey, Kitty, what's up? Kitty, Kitty want to know, Bobby Kinzer, how old will you be on your next birthday? Well, this May 12th, I will be, no, I was talking to somebody, I didn't want to tell the age. I'll be 67. Do you mind telling people how old you be?
I'll be
March the 1st.
I'll
I
be
got it right.
I'll be 55 plus 15.
God, dope.
I'm sticking to the 55 though.
Oh, so don't you know they say you 55 with 15 years experience.
Exactly. Yeah, I'll be 70 years old in a couple weeks.
Damn, dope. You look good for your age, man.
Yeah.
I saw somebody look your age the other day. You better be glad you don't look your age. All right, everybody. Like to say, hope y'all guys take it easy. We love you. 145th show next week. Dope. We're on a roll, baby. We hope this information is good. And remember, you all, please go out there and share on Facebook and subscribe on YouTube and tell more people about it, y'all, because more people need to know this information. We want to help decrease the wealth gap. We want to make sure we increase people's generational wealth so their kids will be funded. So thank you all for tuning in, and we see you next week. Have a good evening.
Peace.
And I saw a saying that says, if you don't sacrifice for what you want will be the sacrifice. Have a good evening.